And with my son, I was able to see it's because she was taught. It's not a gift. Some people still cling to this idea that like it's giftedness, and that really sucks because their kid is going to lose. Like their kid is going to miss out because their parent doesn't believe in them. Their parent thinks
Mm.
other kids are gifted, my kid's not. Like it has nothing to do with your kid. It has everything to do with your belief and your ability to teach it. And with my son, I saw that, and I taught him to read. It was independent of Toddlers Can Read. I was still working my other job. I just wanted him to be a good reader. Back to that list that my wife and I had made in the womb, being a strong, early independent reader was on our list. We wanted him to love books and to be really good at reading. So I did it. And by the end, after that year, when I was looking for the next step and I was trying to figure out what the job would be and what the thing would be, because I was kind of at this transition period, I was meditating, I was reflecting, and then the idea for Toddlers Can Read kind of like fell in my head. It was like, oh, like this is what it's going to be. You spent all this time working with families, you spent all this time working literacy. You've got evidence that this is possible with your 2 year old. Like, this is the thing. There's a business model from it, from all these other online courses in the toddler space. None of them are academic, but people have made it work. There's a platform. If I can make an Instagram page and start making content that helps people, I can reach them. And that all came together. And I just had this case study and this deep belief that it was possible. So, his reading, had I not done it, I wouldn't have started Toddlers Can Read. But I didn't start Toddlers Can Read. Like I didn't teach him to read to start Toddlers Can Read. I taught him to read for him. And
Yeah.
then I used that experience to reflect on it and say, okay, we've got something. And it was gonna be consulting. Like when I first thought of it, I was like, oh, I can like consult and coach people to teach their kids to read. And I'll make a bunch of money. I'll work one on one. I'll help teach your kid to read. And I was like, wait, there's a way better way to do this. We can make it way cheaper, way more affordable, hit way more people if I just make videos and just put them out for people to see.
Indeed. That's a big deal. Teaching a child to read is a challenge. Okay. As someone who has been, advocately, intentionally, what was I about to say there? Intentionally, working with my youngest who's never been in public school. That was a challenge. It was a challenge. She is way better now. I won't say that she can read everything, but she is a reader, and I'm happy for her in that regard because she's 8. Let's say that. Um, but when we first started around 4, because she did do preschool at a private school, and I was still in the classroom at that time. And I talk about the time, like it's so different when you really invest the time in your children. My oldest, I stayed at home with her for her first 2 years. I didn't go into the classroom until she was 2. And when I tell you how she could talk, like the clarity of her, just her speech and her development in general. And I was able to tell you everything where she got anything from. Like I could tell you, I paid that much attention to her. I could tell you like she said one phrase, I'd be like, oh, she got that from this. Or she
Mm-hmm.
did
Mm-hmm.
this. I could tell you, oh, she got that from this. Like I was that present with her. But second child, it was like, oh gosh, I got to go back to work. She was at daycare at 6 weeks. And that hurt me, like hurt my whole heart. But
Mm-hmm.
it was necessary at that time. So I look at their time that was spent with me in that regard, and it's just like if I was able to, I always feel like I cheated my 8-year-old. I always like that's just a little guilt I carry and try to make up for on a regular
Yeah.
basis. But I definitely always feel like I cheated her. But now with being able to see her development and being able to put the time and effort into her and both of them, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We started with phonetics. Like I just sent an email, I think like 2 days ago, where a parent was talking about her frustration with reading or teaching her child how to read. I think he's on the spectrum, things of that nature. I'm just like, well, just back up and start slow. What's your Toddlers Can Read plan? Look, tell us your toddler because you're a pro at this. I only have experience with one, okay?
Yeah. My plan is pretty simple. The goal is to teach them the sounds of the letters and how to stretch those sounds together into words.
Mm,
For parents, I think you need to shut off the part of your brain that understands everything that's to come, all
mm,
this advanced rules and sounds and chapter books and all that sort of stuff. And the part of your brain that's like comparing your kid to other kids and like, oh, they're this age, they should be this far. Like none of that helps. None of it helps. There's no amount of stress and anxiety that makes your kid better at reading. So it just gets shut off, it gets tuned out, and you focus on what's the next step my kid needs to take. So when you're starting, if you teach a kid that this sound says s, and this sound says ah, and this sound says t, and you're able to make that fun and just play games with those three sounds and get their eyes on them as much as possible, your kid's going to learn those three sounds. It's the same way that they learn that this is called a water bottle. You've pointed to it and you've said it and you've used it a lot, right? We just haven't done the same thing with sounds. So your kid's brain has this ability from a really, really young age to be able to look at an object and put a name, put a title to it. We're doing the same thing with sounds. We're looking at the sound and we're putting a title to it. We're saying, okay, that's that, that's t. Then this process of kind of blending sounds together can be tricky, but we back it up and we start really slow. So instead of, starting with dog and cat and mom and dad and a lot of these three sound words people do, we start with two sound words. We'll do at or up or on. We can even do made up words like ip or app.
mhm.
It doesn't matter. It's just the skill of combining two things. We can write the two letters down. We can say the two letters out loud and have them listen like app, app, app. And we slowly just model how to do this. And eventually our kids start to hear two separate things and they start to put them together. They start to see two separate things and stretch them together. It's just a little bit of practice every day. Then we move to three. It's okay, you can do two. Let's move to three. We move from three to four. We slowly get bigger and bigger and bigger. So on one hand, you have here's these letters that make sounds. And on the other hand, is I can combine those sounds together to make words. And we have a kid who's reading. And that is at the basic fundamental level. And we want to get kids reading 3 and 4 sound words really, really well, whether it's real, whether it's made up. It's not about memorizing the word, it's about combining the sounds. And once they can do that, we can start to teach them that 2 letters can make one sound. We can have TH saying, that's a little bit advanced. We can have AI saying A. We can teach them, we can have OO, which says or says ooh, depending on the word. We can start to get towards chapter books and comprehension and plot and all that sort of stuff. But we start very, very basic with sounds and blending. We build the ability to combine words together. We also build confidence along the way and an attitude of like, I can do this and my kid can too. Then we dive into the other stuff. And the other stuff isn't all that hard. We just do it step by step. We don't tackle all of American English at once. We say, okay, here's 3 new harder sounds. Let's learn these 3. Let's practice some words with these 3, and then let's learn 3 more. So I like to do it bit by bit in these kind of bite-sized pieces.
Nice. So Toddlers Can Read is because I know you say you at first you thought consultation. What is it exactly as far as is it a program that parents are accessing, or is it made for kids? How is it? What does it look like?
I started Toddlers Can Read as online courses.
Okay.
So parents would purchase an online course. It's about 90 minutes long, watch it, and then have the knowledge needed to teach their kid to read. So much like in the way that I'm kind of talking to you now, I'd have my flashcards out, my whiteboard out. I'd have some kids with me to demonstrate and be like, here's what to do with your kid. I think it's a strong model. I think it works. This is how I learn. I really like doing online courses and kind of watching and then practicing. But I realized really quickly that parents also want like tools. They want things. So I added flashcards. I added decodable books, whiteboards, markers, just the resources people could have at home. But a lot of people buy that stuff, but then they're missing like the knowledge for how to do it, or they have the knowledge but none of the stuff. And so we really want to put both together. We want to give parents the kind of like how the brain learns to read and also like the what and the what you're going to use to actually execute on that reading lesson. So last summer is in July 16th, I remember. I joined Love Every to help launch the reading skill set, which to me feels like a much more complete solution for parents. And having worked with thousands and thousands of parents over the last 3 years, so many conversations, so many lessons learned. I just discovered like there's ways to make this fun. There's ways to make it engaging. My initial approach relied a lot on parent creativity,
Mm.
which is fine for some people. It's like, okay, here's a deck of flashcards. Here's 20 different ways that you can play these games. Like, try and think of the one that makes the most sense for your kid. For some people, that's perfect. It's super simple. It's exactly what you need. For many people, they want more guidance. And with the reading skill set, what we've made is something where the guidance is there. It's actually just games you play with your kid. So you don't have to think as the parent what to do. You can like open the box and play a game with your kid where you're like racing around the board to get syllables, or you're trying to like hop the penguin across and like sit on this iceberg without falling, but the whole time you're working on these different long vowel patterns. So the kind of current state, this is a very long answer to your question because
No,
I've
you're
gone through
fine.
this journey
Mhm.
of like what's the best resource for parents. We have games that make learning really, really fun. And we have videos that help people understand what's happening in your kid's brain and how to teach them to read. And those are the two big things that we're putting forward to help people support their kids. Um, and I've been working like crazy since July to provide like video content for all the games. Where we're adding 155 videos to support the
Mm.
reading skill set to say like, if this is the activity and your kid is struggling with it, here's what to do. If your kid had already mastered it, but they still want to keep playing the game, here's how to make it harder. Here's how to extend it. Here's how to get a little bit more life out of it. If you're wondering how this connects to the broader picture of reading, here's how. Here's that kind of why for you. If you want to know how to introduce this to your game to your kid to make it exciting, here's me modeling what it sounds like to introduce something to a kid in a really exciting way. So, I'm really pumped. I've got like the kind of products all around the room. At the beginning, though, I've just got to say, anytime I talk about the reading skill set, I've got to tell parents, you don't need a lot of stuff to teach your kid how to read. Like a lot of parents already have like a homeschool curriculum, maybe multiple curriculum that they're kind of working with and pulling from. There's lots of different ways. I just try to match the resource to the personality and the situation. If you're super minimalist, get like a whiteboard, get a marker, and just write down some letters. If you want like a done for you system, where it's just like open the box and play a game, like reading skill set's great. But think about your situation, think about your kid, think about what works best, and try to find a really good resource for you. And that's what we try to provide. A lot of reading resources kind of suck, but we've really worked hard to create resources that are fun and actually rooted in the science of how kids learn how to read.